As a teenager, many moons ago, about 50 years ago now, we're all in that same tribe here, I was so unhappy that I took an overdose of sleeping pills in the hopes of ending my life because it was just too hard. That turned out to be a gift because it launched me on my lifelong deep dive into learning more about happiness. What is happiness? It took me a long time to figure that out, and a lot of wrong turns and a few right turns. How do you get there? And then more importantly, how do you sustain that feeling of being happy? Now, when I talk to groups about this word happiness, everyone always resonates. Some people, however, prefer a different word. They prefer joy, for example, or fulfillment, or purpose. And I will tell you that no matter what your word is for happiness, what you're going to learn here today with us together working on our mini workshop, mini happiness skills and practices workshop, will pertain to you increasing whatever it is you want more of in your life. So as I have been through the last 50 years of this deep dive, really going to courses, working with people one-on-one, therapists, coaches, studying the philosophers old and new, I came to understand many things. I came up with 80 skills and practices, and I call them, you have to have a practice. If you're going to integrate a skill into your life, any skill, woodworking, painting, happiness, you need to practice it every day to get really good. And if you want to be happy, you want to get really good at being happy. So that's where I teach from, that perspective. We're going to do just a quick brush over on a few skills. I teach this in terms of the 4 aspects of your being: your mind, your body, your heart center, and your spirit, which is the energy that imbues you and makes you who you are. However you want to think about spirit as a way of connecting with the higher power, with God or whoever you believe in, or just simply in the energy that you emanate as you walk through a room. We're going to talk about that from these 4 perspectives. Because when we start working with each of those 4 aspects of ourselves, and then we start to blend that together, that's bringing happiness to all of us as a one being. Now, I have a book. It's called Say Yes to Happiness Handbook. I teach from that handbook in these 4 aspects. The book is divided into 4 sections. There is also an online course. I did the course specifically because people like you were saying, I need to work with you one-on-one to understand your book and get more out of it. And although I have been coaching for 15 years from this program, I can't be everywhere for everybody. So I made the online course. It's about 5 hours worth of 23 segments of video, and you can sit and go through it at your own pace with your book in front of you, and I talk you through each section of the book. So we start with mind. And today I'm going to talk about the one thing that's most important for you to take away, which is that what you think is what you create. It's no more complicated than that. What you think about, what you sit and think about, or wake up and think about, or get in your car and think about, is what you're going to bring about in your life. So this gets down to the simplicity of the words you use are critical in the positive thoughts and the happy thoughts that you create. And then in turn from that point, creating the outcome you want in your life. We've got some examples here in our mini workshop work pages. Maybe you read the first page already. One of the examples is, if you grew up with a mom, for example, who had a bad back, I could go a lot of places with mom, or had a bad knee, and she was chronically complaining about it, it became part of your reality. Oh, when I get older, for sure, I'm going to have a bad back, and I know for sure my knee's not going to be any good. And so therefore, those thoughts will create an outcome, in this case, in your body. You can change that thought. That's a limiting thought. It's a limiting belief. And what we believe sets the tone for what we feel in our heart and whether or not we're going to be happy, joyful, peaceful, calm, and fulfilled. So you flip that limiting belief around and you say to yourself instead, you know, I realize all these years I've had this picture of mom in my head, and I always thought I was going to fulfill my life in the pattern that she created for me, but I don't need to. I know that I can take good care of my back. I know that I can do exercises that they taught me in the gym. I know I have a physical therapist I love, and boy, I got that new CBD oil and it works great. So that's how you rewrite your limiting belief. Say, for example, as a child, you had a teacher or a coach, or maybe a parent, who told you you weren't good at something, you weren't going to be able to do that, oh, you can't learn to sing, you can't carry a tune. You can flip that thought around now and say to yourself, I would like to learn to sing, and I'm going to take myself and get some lessons from a teacher, and I know I'm going to enjoy it. Because it no longer needs to be about being good. It needs to be about being happy. And happiness is just about what you feel in your body, the joy that you create with the thought and the choices that you make. So I'm going to invite you to look at pages 1 and 2. On page 1, I'm going to invite you to think about what limiting thoughts or beliefs have you noticed, or maybe that you can think of as sitting here, that you think about frequently. You may have some mindsets that are limiting, negative thought patterns. Write down a couple sentences about that on the first page. If you need a pen, let me know. On your second page, you're going to rewrite that negative thought to a positive thought. There are examples at the top of each page for each thing. I'm here if you have questions. Let's take a few minutes and work on that together. Let's move on now to body as the second aspect of our 4-aspect being. So we talked about mind, we talked about the thoughts we create, create the life that we live. Our body is the vehicle for living your happiest life. Your body is really your best friend. We weren't taught that, but that, as it turns out, is the reality of it. And movement is our most powerful tool for achieving happiness with our bodies. When we tend to sit and start to hunch over and bend over and roll those shoulders forward, any difficult feeling we have or negative thought that we're entertaining in our minds tends to get stuck right here in your solar plexus and in your torso. That's why it's so important that at least every hour you're standing up, opening your chest, getting those shoulders back so your lungs can really expand. You want to fill those lungs with breath. That's not only your breath of life, it's your breath of happiness. Even if you can't stand, if you're in a chair and you roll those shoulders up and back and down, open that chest cavity, give those lungs more room to fill. And though we may have been taught to be quiet as kids, breath was designed to come out with some noise. So let that out breath completely exhale, and let's hear it. How about a breath right now? Come on, who's brave? A nice big one all the way to your waist. And woo! Woo!
Exercise class, you know this. Great.
There you go. This lady is here to teach you about how to move for happiness in your life, absolutely. Because I know you're taking yoga here as well. Anything that keeps your body in flow. This is not about tight. This is about letting go of tight and getting an ease and movement. So, along these lines, yes, you can go to classes and it's super important. And yes, you can go to the gym because it keeps your body moving. Strength is important and flow is important too. They go hand in hand even though they're a little opposite from each other. This is not about building and getting tight. It's about strength and moving in flow. But more importantly, and I should say in addition, you need to be moving all day long. If you know you've been in a seated position for 50 minutes, get up. Even if you simply stand and reach for the sky and say, I'm here, send that beautiful energy down to me. I need you, blue sky and clouds. Let's hang out together, sunshine. This is a shift for happiness. This is you using your body because your body was designed to receive fresh air, movement, sunshine. Even a rainy day will refresh you. So who can imagine doing that every hour? Show of hands. Good, good. Okay, I'm going to assume the hands that didn't go up are willing, but maybe a little shy. Let's go with that one. Okay, on this page, what I'm asking you to do is write a list of all the ways that you're saying yes to moving in your life every day and throughout the week. So one column might be, yes, I'm committed to this class with Sally, I'm committed to the gym time, I go outside and I walk, whatever it is for you. Maybe you get in your car and go hiking. And in addition, I'm going to roll my ankles when I'm sitting at the dinner table. Or I'm going to lift my shoulders up and down and roll my shoulders back when I'm watching TV. All kinds of movement matter. So I'm inviting you to start to think about it, to make it so. See it and make it so. So that's what the next exercise is about. Take some time with that and fill out all the ways you're saying yes to moving. So let's go on to heart. In heart, we're going to talk about companionship and connection and choosing relationships that lift us up. That's the important caveat. Connection and companionship, obviously, I think to all of us are very important. Now, some of us need our alone time for sure, and that's how we recharge, and that's great. But we have to be careful not to get too isolated, and we need to always be connecting and reconnecting with other people. So that's the companionship piece. The key to really making this work for you and work for the other person as well is having it be a relationship that lifts you up. So we're going to talk about 2 tools around designing relationships that lift you up. And the first thing we're going to talk about is deep listening. Deep listening is a slow and focused skill. This is when you sit and you get really present with whatever you're listening to. In this case, we're going to talk about you're listening to a person, and a person that you're in person with, or on a phone or FaceTime call. And the skill is this simple. You have quieted your mind so that you're tracking with every single word that this person is saying, which might be very different than what you're used to doing. You may notice as you start to practice this, I hear a few words word for word, and then something lands that I take a hold of, and I start processing it in my own brain, and I start thinking about what I want to say back to that person, and then I'm waiting for them to finish so I can say that thing, and you are no longer a listener. You are no longer present for the well-being of that person. Now you're holding the space for you to say what matters to you, and you've lost the listening. So the call here in deep listening is to track it word for word. You're at ease so that you can really let your mind be present with the words that you're hearing. And then the next most important part of this is, at the end, you allow quiet. Response is not required. It's maybe not even wanted. What we really want as humans is to be heard. We don't really want to be responded to, quite honestly. We don't necessarily want to be, our kids don't necessarily want to be, our grandchildren, our neighbors, our friends, they want to be heard. Because in hearing them, you're saying, you matter. You're saying, what you have to say is important, which says you matter. There's no greater gift, honestly, that you can give anyone than to be a deeply present listener. So that's a skill that's really key in growing resonant relationships that lift you up. So you start modeling it for the people that you're in conversation with, and you can even share with them, ask them to listen, if they would listen to you, so you could share about, I'm practicing this. Maybe we could practice it together. And then if someone wants a response or feedback, you can share with each other that you'll ask for it if there's something you need in response. And if you don't want response, you'll say, I just want to talk. I don't really want to be responded to. Will you just listen to me? What a great gift. So on the first page, we're going to write down how it occurs to you now, listening to me. How do you want to go forward from here practicing this skill? Maybe who with, what situations in. I will tell you that if you want to do like homework around this, put on a podcast, put on a TED Talk, and get really good at listening word for word. This is not about taking something out and forming an opinion. Nope. Listening word for word. That's one way you can practice it before you put it in action. But on the page, I want you to think about, because we're working on relationships here. What relationship would you like to practice this in? And what notes do you want to make about what you notice about how other people do this with you? All right, I'll give you a few minutes here and then we'll come back. This is important work, and I appreciate you taking time with it. So let's connect that one with the next one, which is setting boundaries. This is about saying yes and saying no. And in connection with what we're talking about, building relationships that lift you up and that lift up the other person as well. You want the win-win relationship where you're feeling heard, you're enjoying time together, and you're bringing in the first part we talked about in mind, which is what you think is what you create, and the words you choose to use are so incredibly powerful. Even the difference between can and can't, do and don't. I will, I won't. Oh, I won't do that. I know I can't. I'm not any good at that. Wow. Okay, how about this? You know, I haven't tried it before. I've been afraid to, but I think I'll be brave. And yeah, I'm going to give that a try. Thanks for mentioning it. It's that subtle. So the words you choose are powerful. You want to choose the good ones. And when you're looking at people to hang out with, you want to hang out with people that know about this and they practice this. You're not looking for the people that sit there and talk about everything that's wrong with their families and with their bodies and with the government and with the president, you know. You want to hang out with the people who are talking about, I did the coolest thing in art class. Will you come and join me next time, or can I just show it to you? Or they look out at the sky and they go, wow, can you believe we get to live here and look at that? Wow. So do you want to think that you want to hang out with those people? The people who are being positive and open. Their bodies are open. They know about lifting up. They know about stretching and extending to get to the dishes. So that's building resonant relationships. Now, saying yes and saying no and setting boundaries. This is the hard part. I get it. It's like, I don't want to hurt that person. I get that. So your first step is, if you're in a relationship that's like that and you want to create a shift in that relationship, your first step is you can share with them what you're doing. I went and heard this speaker, and I got this book, and I'm doing this online course, and this is what I'm learning. I'd love it if we could practice it together. Maybe you'd like to do the course with me. Oh, I can't do that. Really? What do you need to be able to say yes to that? This saying yes thing is big. That's a really positive word. So as you're communicating with someone and inviting them into this shift with you, you can default to that question of, what do you need to say yes to this? And you can help them to start shifting their conversation. Now, it is not your job to help them shift, but if this is someone you would like to maintain a relationship with, and it might be a family member, and those can be even trickier, this is a place to begin. Now, if that person just doesn't jump on board at all, and they're completely shut down, then your next choice is to just create more distance. You respond to the text message less frequently, you don't pick up the call as often, you don't spend as much time together. But you've started out from the positive, open-hearted perspective of, do you want to share and learn this with me? Because I really want to be more positive so I can feel better and happier in my life. I notice it's working when I try it. So when to say yes and when to say no. And if no is a problem word for you, you start and you practice small. Do you want tea today for lunch? No, I really don't. Thank you, I'd like some water. Or do you want to go to the movies today? No, I think what I prefer to do is go work on my art project. So you can begin with no. Now, no is a negative word, it's also a boundary word, so it has to stay in the vernacular. You can always follow it up with a positive. No, that doesn't really work for me, but this does. Would you like to join me for that? Or, I really just feel like I need some quiet time today. You don't even have to say no. Will you come with me to the store? I think I just need some quiet time today. I'm going to stay home and read. Thanks for asking me. That's another great response for someone that you want to put some distance between you and that person. So write your ideas down now about this. Who can you think of in your life that this might pertain to? What examples can you think of in particular with a particular person where you might want to try making a shift in this relationship? Either bringing on board as a more positive relationship or creating more distance and ultimately letting it go. That too is sometimes necessary, even with family members. So what comes up for you in your heart of hearts about relationships you'd like to shift? If anything comes up for you, this is the time to write it on your papers. I'm going to add a PS to this. This boundary setting thing starts with you, like literally with you. The first part of your training in saying no to somebody is starting to say, you don't get to say yes this time. I know that feels uncomfortable, but we're going to practice this together. This is your head and your heart talking to each other. So you start by setting that boundary with you. I will no longer say yes to that thing. Every time I sit at lunch with that person, I'm miserable. So you start the boundary setting with you. Thanks. I think we're going to move on here to spirit, which is the fourth aspect of your being. And this, I present these in the order in which I learned them all from the time I was 15 till about, I think 50 is when I finally pulled all these things together. I'm 65 now. Spirit being the energy of who you are. It's like, what do you bring to the world that's unique to you? It's how do you connect with the energy of whatever is bigger than us, if you believe there is, or your own personal higher self. And there are many aspects to this part of you, and a really important one that's really connected to growing is curiosity. You know, we're born curious. Now, a lot of that times that can get shut down as, oh, I'm curious about trying this. No, you can't try that. Okay, fine. So now we end up at this point in life, and I want to ask you today, what are your unattended longings? What are the things that you long to do and that are hidden inside of you now because you haven't thought about them for a while, or maybe you do think about them all the time? I long to go to the Grand Canyon. I long to look over the edge and see the amazingness of that wonder of nature. You know, I long to try singing. I have repressed that. It's stuck inside my body. I know I need to get it out because Jane told me I can't let stuff get stuck in my body. Because when you do, it becomes a problem. You know, the world is on my shoulders. That's the tight shoulders. That's something stuck in your body. That doesn't feel good in my gut. That's a real thing. It's your body talking to you. So your curiosity, what are your unintended longings? What do you want to learn, try, see? Where do you want to go? Let's make some notes about this. What's there for you? And then in addition, what's really important is once you identify it, now we start talking about some action steps. Okay, I've identified I want to learn to swim, and I never did, and it's always bothered me. So now I'm going to figure out how to learn to swim. And here's my list, 1, 2, 3, of the things I'm going to do. So write down some of the things that you would like to attend to, that you long to do, want to do, and then make some side notes about, here's what I'm going to do to take action on that. Take a few minutes with that. This is an important question. So this is a wrap-up question for you. It's what are you saying yes to that you've written down today? What has occurred to you today about your thoughts, your movement, your commitment to movement? There's nothing more powerful than commitment. What you're taking away that you commit to doing, since it's the strongest force in the world. What you're committing to about maybe connecting with people in new ways, deep listening, and following through on some of these unattended longings that you've started to identify with yourself. You know, life is a work in progress until the last breath. And what we're doing here today, we could do every single day and probably get different thoughts about it. So take what you've got from today, be present with this, and see on your last piece of paper in your packet there, I almost your last one to write on, any notes about any to-do items that you would like to bring attention to, maybe plan to implement. All right, let's just take a minute to gather together and kind of in a summary form for you. If you would like to, summarize your thoughts from the packet and put everything onto one page. I always need to do that when I've been journaling and thinking. I've got to write down what's my bullet list of what I'm going to do as a takeaway from what I just wrote. That's what this page is for. It's important work. I hope you'll continue it on this afternoon or this evening. We want to hang on to the thoughts that we think that will create the happiest change in our life and bring them into action. That's what practice is about. It's one thing to sit here and listen to me for an hour, and that's great, and maybe have an inspired moment listening, perhaps. But it's something very different to take that and integrate it into who you are in the world and how you choose to experience your life. That's a completely different level, and that's why I teach practices, not just skills. This is about daily commitment. I live all my skills every day. All 80 skills I teach in the book are part of who I am. It's how I arrived to stand here in front of you through a lot of twists and turns in my life. It's a long story I don't need to share today, but I want you to know it works. When you decide commitment is the strongest force in the world, we all have that available to us. We all have the ability to choose to be committed. Living is aging, and that's just the design of the way it works. Each moment you add to your life, you're in this body longer. So it's here longer, and we call it aging. The happy choice is to adapt gracefully to the changes that naturally occur in our physical matter. The key word is grace. Adapting with grace, accepting with grace. Yeah, it's cool. I'm another day. I've been here another day. This is awesome. What do I get to do with this one? Every day is a flippin' gift. You get to choose to decide that and then to unwrap it. But you've got to fill up the box, too, of the thing you're unwrapping. To continue to integrate in your body, with your mind, with your heart, your emotional heart center, with your spiritual energy, that which you are. And I encourage you to keep going and designing and living your happiest life in every now. This moment, this now, is the only one you can truly impact. So don't sit around and waste your time thinking about what was or what might be, because they aren't here. The here and the now, this is the one. It's the moment you get to say yes to. I'm going to fill up every molecule of this moment with what I want in my life by choosing what I think, how I interact with people, how I move my body, and how I honor myself and my spirit. Keep going. Let's make each moment great, and the next ones will take care of themselves.